Hello.
Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Make Love Easy podcast. I'm Louis Brantmeyer, and this is Shane Orden, uh, infamous for his skills in social dynamics, be it heart-centered or otherwise. Today, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but primarily the skill in generating, like causing, intending makeouts, and finding those who are willing, ready, able, available, and excited to engage with that. Very much dovetails with the work of Leigh Londes that we talk about in our 6-week accelerator, the Undercover Sex Signals book, and subconscious signals that women send off. But anyway, that's just a teaser trailer. Shane, how's it going?
Great. I'm excited to talk about this. Haven't
Oh
talked
man,
about it in a while.
I'm so excited to talk to you. There's like this vastness there in between your ears that hasn't. It's the great undiscovered country. That's what it is.
Love
Um,
that.
so tell me, man. Yeah, for sure. I'll make a Star Trek reference any day. It was one of the movie titles. So, what what's your story with all of this? Like,
hmm
it really takes a certain type of personality, set of commitments to get into the world of, at first pickup artistry, and then more recently, like conscious relating, authentic relating, and I'm just super curious. What's your story?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had extremely high social anxiety. And I remember, but I also had like a lot of drive. So I remember in high school being terrified of parties, but I would still force myself. And I was trying to do my high school. I went to a private school. My high school didn't really party, so I was trying to find and break my way into all these parties. And fast forward to college, similar thing. When I finally turned 21, that's where a friend sleeping on my couch introduced me to pickup artistry, which is what I felt like I was already doing. And then jumped in, started going to bars sober and just experimenting.
Man, yeah. So this is 21. How old are you now?
I am 33.
33. Okay, so this is like 12 years of
hmm
practice that we're talking to here. And I'm curious, did you study any of the usual people? Like, did you read the game, or what did you favor back in the day when you were in that mindset?
Well, it's funny because I read a bit of the game, but I couldn't finish it. And honestly, I just had this friend telling me stuff, and I just wanted to jump in and I just wanted to get experience. And I look back on that, and I started to realize that I knew that I had no idea what women like. I had no idea what it was like to be a woman. Women confused me. And so any kind of theory that I would come up with, I didn't even know what a paradigm was, but I knew that I was not at the paradigm to kind of theorize what women were attracted to. And so I knew that I needed to jump out there and get tons of experience and try things and experiment. And a lot of my friends around me, they know me as somebody who likes to do social experiments. And I turned this into a conscious practice. Oh, I want to work on my boundary setting. Let me practice it and do it. So I just jumped in and I went out 6 nights a week and just constantly talked to people. I remember I had there's a period of time where it was a 3 month period where I was going 6 or 7 nights a week. I was going really hard every night. And my first week of that 3 month period, I was focused on how many women I could talk to, how many conversations I could start. And what was funny was the second week, I was competing with this friend over how many women we could talk to. And I started winning. And he was confused by that. And so he watched me and he noticed that I would get bored after 5 or 10 minutes and then walk away. He told me that doesn't really count because you're not moving it towards something. You're just having a conversation walking away. So I had this idea of, oh, so when I start to feel bored, I'll tell her, hey, I have to go find my friends, but give me a kiss first. In my mind, I was just thinking, yeah, women will say no. Great, it counts because I got rejected and I can move on. And I was shocked by how many women were not saying no. They weren't, no, none of them ever said yes, but a lot, it's like either no or this hesitation, like silence. And this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I definitely don't understand women because, and now it's kind of obvious looking back, it's like, oh, she doesn't actually have to be in love with me to want to make out. It's just kind of this fun thing that happens. Yeah, it's fun to make out. And it was just such a shift for me. And I think what I noticed with a lot of guys that I was helping, not like officially in some kind of paid sense, but I would have friends and I would take them out and I would teach them because they would ask me for that. I would notice that if they had a belief that a woman has to love them in order to want to make out, then women will not make out with them because they could sense intuitively that this had that kind of meaning to the man. And I think this is part of why I moved to Austin, Texas, because as I was getting more into these kind of more woo-woo spiritual ways of looking at dating, like a lot of the guys around me were saying, what are you talking about? The beliefs in my head are making her not want to make out with me. That makes no sense. But moving to Austin, where people meditate more, and I'm around people that are more in the spiritual sense, they're like, oh, preaching to the choir. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So there's a lot there, man. That's amazing. And thanks for diving into such a
Yeah.
usable, immediately applicable practical tip and tool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, there's some structural elements to that I think are would be fun to dig in on. So I'll come back there in a moment. But I also moved to Austin in large part because of the commitment to like growing myself socially and sexually
Mm-hmm.
and having skills that I didn't yet perceive myself to possess, and having a community where I could sort of evolve and develop. And yeah, I have no doubt that the women on some subconscious level, even energetic, whatever, could feel those beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what an elegant, sort of simple process
Right.
that you've created. Yeah,
Thanks.
I mean, like, yeah, and it's funny. So it goes back into David J. Lieberman. He wrote this book, "You Can Get Anyone to Do Anything," and
Mm.
he did a study of like people cutting other people in line. And if you try to cut somebody in line, all you need really is to follow up, hey, I need to cut you in line because, and then you fill in the blank with some meaningful
Right.
excuse. um or so you get not because you ask not in
Right.
social and sexual existence on one level. I mean, also structurally, I'm assuming that you're outgoing, you're easygoing. You probably had some measure of rapport, though it sounds like the spectrum, the gradient scale of how much rapport played into how astounded you were by how comfortable someone was with making out so quickly. So I'd love to
Right.
hear you speak to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, I think there's different layers I can look at this. So one layer is on the content that I was saying, the language I was using. I have to go find my friends, which means I'm leaving. There's no pressure. I'm not staying here. Give me a kiss first. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm asking for a makeout. It'll be a fun thing. There's no added attachment stuff or pressure for it to mean something because I just said I'm leaving. So that's one way to make it more comfortable. Another layer is that I found when I can really slow down my heart rate with my breathing, and if I feel really centered in my body, it is very different. It sends a very different neurological response to the other person. In their nervous system, they can feel calmer, more centered because I'm calmer and more centered. Pickup artistry calls this the law of state transference. What I feel, she feels. And this is one of the things that it was hard to explain to a lot of guys because they don't meditate, they don't feel their energy, so they're like, this doesn't exist. Simultaneously, I facilitate relatefulness, this practice, which is, we use the term like it's, relatefulness is a mix of relationships and mindfulness. So it's a meditation on the relationship. And there are guys that come in there very confused, like, what are you talking about? Energy or body sensations? But what I found, I could even talk like this, and it has a different response on your nervous system versus I could talk confidently, clearly, very centered. I could show you how calm I am by the quality of my voice. And I have found that women want to make out with a more centered man, which kind of makes sense. I think a lot of women have a lot of trauma from guys that get very anxiously attached to them, in the worst case, violent with them because of their anxious attachment. So there's a lot of women with various traumas with men. And so it just helps to have this calm nervous system say, okay, he's a safe man to sexually explore with. It's also a difference, I think, between men and women, is I found that men, when they're stressed, they more want to ejaculate and have sex. And I think what it seems like with women, when they're stressed, they less want to have sex. There's a lot of exceptions to that case, but I think on average that seems right. So one level, there's the language that I'm using, no pressure. My system feels clear, confident, calm, which is magnified, especially at a bar where it's a very scary environment. To feel calm and centered on that feels very powerful. And it's like this very king-like energy, because basically my subjects, or the people that want to be around me, feel the safety of being around me when I feel confident and calm. So I think
I
I've
love
balanced
this.
those energies. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's safety, there's security, there's nervous system calm, ease.
Mm-hmm.
There's like commanding dominance without being needy. Is
Right.
another piece that I'm hearing, and then wrapping it all up in that kingly energy where you are. I mean, it takes a certain level of balls and boldness to
Yeah.
deliver an instruction like that at all.
Right. Yeah. Which is why it works better too, because there's a high risk, high reward kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's not even that much of a high risk, because the riskier thing is to not take risk. At least if you're a man, I think the riskier thing is to try to stay safe, try to back into a corner and have this body language. It's like, don't reject me. That is the riskier thing. Being confident and asking for what we want is the more thing that's likely to give us reward and less rejection, ironically.
Totally. What a great debug and like short circuit for the men who probably just heard that and were like, okay, I could do that, but that's horrifying. I mean, like, you have one life, gentlemen.
Right.
So I love this because you gave a very intro level sort of technique, like that anybody could try, no matter theoretically, no matter how much rapport they've built.
Yeah.
because you're like sidestepping the whole need to like go build emotional intimacy towards possibly having a relationship or going on a date later, and you're skipping ahead, sort of like hopscotch, like, all right, now we're at 10, and let's assume it also assumes that there's enough comfort and safety, and you may get the feedback that she's not there, which is fine.
Hmm.
um and I imagine that would simply come off as a clear no, like, no, or like weird, like
Yeah.
like her just, and so yeah, exactly, no risk, no reward. I'm curious, and this is what instigated this whole conversation initially. There's a more advanced skill level,
Hmm.
capacity that you've shared about,
Hmm.
where within a couple minutes of meeting someone, it's like the pins and tumblers inside the lock, uh, they arrange in the right way, and there's a space, energetically, contextually, physically opened,
Hmm.
where you're able to make out with somebody who you just literally just met, like, and it's not necessarily that walking away thing, but maybe, am I recalling this correctly, like those
Yeah.
are two separate varieties? Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that when I started back in that 3 month period where I just started asking every woman I was talking to that, hey, I have to go find my friends, but give me a kiss first. I did that to every single woman I was talking to, and I was approaching like 10 groups of women a night. I did the math, and that means like in that 3 month period, I had asked a woman, like over 700 women to make out in 3 months. So I think that's hilarious. And what was cool, and this is not something I intended, but something that I kind of noticed, was that I started getting this spidey sense for women when women will want to make out. And I later heard this research study that in order to teach somebody how to tell the difference between a male or female chick from a chicken, they there's somebody that needs to know, that does know the difference, and then somebody who's guessing, who's learning. He's That person's guessing whether or not it's male or female, and the person that knows tells them whether they're right or wrong. And over time, this person that's guessing gains the intuition to know whether or not the chick that they're seeing is male or female. And so I think over time, from asking what I wanted over 700 times in a couple months, I developed this intuition, this spidey sense that would come on, and it would tell me when a woman wants to make out. And I think I can somewhat share what the triggers I think are for that spidey sense. And at the same time, I think it's a lot of like asking for what we want and slowly developing that intuition. But one of the signs that I think I see, I'm fairly certain that I sense, is that it's hard with just audio because we're not on video, but if I move my head 1 centimeter forward, barely, you can't even consciously notice that I moved my head forward. Does she stay still? Does she move a centimeter back? Does she move a centimeter forward? When I notice that, because I think we're all like rocking back and forth, we're not like exactly completely frozen still when we're standing. We're kind of moving. And so when I do these slight movements forward and I notice this woman is not backing away, it's a sign to me that she's okay being more in my energy field, or maybe she even wants to be more in my energy field, be even closer. And so that to me is a huge sign, but probably the biggest sign that I look for openness to making out. The the next sign is that, and this one's more tricky, because what I started to notice when I'm doing, I've been doing this practiced relatefulness for 6 years, what I started to notice, uh, well, some quick, what this is what relatefulness is. It's just basically talking about what I'm feeling with somebody when I pay attention to them. So what I've noticed from this practice over the years is that I'll say what I'm feeling, and the person I'm paying attention to will say, "Oh, that's exactly what I'm feeling." And what a lot of us have started in this practice have started to realize was maybe it's not, maybe what I'm feeling isn't exactly mine. Maybe I'm actually feeling what the other person is feeling and thinking it's just me. And so sometimes when what I've noticed is like on a date with a woman, when I start thinking about making out with her, it might actually be a thought or feeling implanted by her. Maybe that's when she started feeling like she wanted to make out with me. Or vice versa, maybe I started wanting to do that and like I transmitted that desire into her as well. Or maybe the environment did to both of us. It's really hard to tell. But when I the practical, more practical part of for the people that are sensitive to energy, is that if I can feel this desire in my body to make out, I can kind of enhance it. And this is a very tantric, energetic quality. I, and it goes back to law of state transference. What I feel, she feels. So if I start to turn myself on energetically, she'll start to feel that more, and it'll create the mood. And so there's this whole leaning part. So it's kind of sensing boundaries in a non-verbal way. And so I could slowly lean in. If she doesn't move anywhere, then I could like keep slowly moving in. Slowness is key here because it's so sensual to be slow, and then make out. I've noticed I've noticed too, so when I talk about the Spidey sense, that if I'm on a date with a woman and my Spidey sense goes off that this is the right moment to go for the makeout, if I ignore that sense because I'm like, hey, well, there's people around, this doesn't seem like the right moment, that moment will pass and there won't be another moment to make out. And I've noticed this date after date is like, if I miss that window, it's gone.
Man, this is fascinating and so super grounded too. The best theory or recipes I have found is backwards explanatory, meaning it captures and gives a meaningful interpretation to past experience.
Right.
So like as I watch you build this articulation, I see myself looking back in my experiences with women and when we made out and how that went and why that happened. And I definitely have the experience of like, yeah, I was choosing to turn myself on, and it was a thought, and then the physical sensation sort of created this context and this energy that I then conveyed to her either non-verbally or physically or even through a direct ask or whatever. And yeah, going back a little bit too, 700 women. That's awesome. So I have a thought on that. Like, I think it was somebody in business. They said, if you can have anything you want, if you ask 1,000 people for it. So you could have probably asked you could have asked those women to have your baby, and one of them would have said yes.
Yeah.
But the development of the spider sense, it's interesting to me because my thought is that we're meant to be. I think some of the research, there was a book called The Science of Kissing that I read. This was many years ago. And I'm kind of half remembering it. So I might be confabulating what would otherwise be true or useful sounding stuff. But the sense was that the lips become engorged for kissing, and that kissing is kind of this pre-mating test of the compatibility of the biology of the two partners. And like it suggests to me that if something evolved to exist in that way, that maybe kissing itself and being good at kissing and being good at finding people to test kissing with, so to speak, would be an innate piece of circuitry and
Hmm.
biological, like inbuilt neurological mechanism that maybe everybody's got this spider sense. They just need to activate it through practice. And because of
Absolutely.
intrinsic metabolic optimization, we're all, you know, our energy and attention is going towards how to type better on the computer rather than how to mate, because people aren't paying attention to it. So it's
Hmm.
like I get this sense of this circuit somewhere hardwired deep in the brain that gets activated. And then there's the other complementary explanation, which is exactly what you said, is like you just get better at guessing if you
Yeah.
guess enough times. So
Yeah.
yeah, anything you want to say about all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, well, it's interesting with my background with spirituality because I came more from a neuroscience aspect, and because I wanted to study my brain of like why I was so anxious. And part that led me to meditation, but it led me to neuroscience meditation. And so, kind of touching upon what you're talking about, paying attention to the body and the body sensations and this energy of turn on maps the insula part of the brain to the body more. And so we become even more sensitive to feeling that. And I was very non-sensitive. I had a terrible diet that was, and multiple things that were just leading me to disassociate a lot from my body. But when I practiced that more, I had more connection to my body. I could feel when I was off center. I could feel if I was feeling turned on, and I could even manipulate that energy to be stronger or more spread away from my cock and spread through my body, where it's like a tantric practice. And so I would say that, yeah, part of it is like sensing that, and then part of it is sensing the energy, and then part of it is manipulating the energy. And I think that when women see that I can do that, they're like, yeah, I want to do the next stage of testing to see if I want to mate with this person. And when when tasting someone else's saliva, we actually have these parts of our brain that they're like laboratory scientists that take the saliva and test it, probably to see if like this person's genetically related to us and all these other things. So it's definitely a genetic test and other tests, because making out has this energetic, sensual quality to it. Some people are rough, some people are slow, some people are they don't know what they're doing, and you can like tell they don't know what they're doing. So there's all these different elements. And I'd also say you'd get what you want if you asked 1,000 people. And I think what the thing there is that there's just so many people afraid of rejection. And it's funny because I think rejection is so key to the process, not just to get to the yes, but because there's so much valuable feedback in a no. Some women, I think I don't ever take one woman's response to me personally. I take the average of many women's responses to me. And so there's this theory in pickup artistry where they talk about shit tests. And it's this funny thing because whenever I talk to women about shit tests, they're like, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But I think that women can intuitively sense what my insecurities are and what any man's insecurities are, and they can put it into this test. And so it's what's hard about rejection is that it's not just rejection, it's a woman finding the kinks in our armor, finding our biggest insecurities and hitting them. And if we can go through that really tough process and like really look at it and not just be in blame or victimhood, but really look at, okay, this person just pointed something out in me that I can grow in myself and like work on, then it's just fast tracks how fast we can grow. So the no's are just as important as the yeses.
I had a coach and healer deeply skilled in the Enneagram last year who he had been one of the teachers for one of the big name pickup artist seduction teachers or something. He's like one of the coaches. And he said one of the greatest ways to develop as a man, like quickly, and become super skilled in life and to deal with all the shit that's under the surface is to just approach women over and over and over again.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. So would you say, it sounds like you agree, but like, would you say that the highest potential for men is only accessible if they explore this part of them as well?
Yeah, because I would say, let's say you heal everything about yourself, you learn everything without ever having to get rejected. There'll be still times with women where they'll be angry at me, and it's a very important skill in receiving someone's anger, especially a woman's anger in a relationship. For a heterosexual man, there's a way that a man can be non-defensive and just hear it. It's like this really funny meme, this thing that women say a lot is, I just want to be heard. There's nothing you need to change about it. But guys get so defensive, and it's the easiest thing ever and the hardest thing ever at the same time is just hearing a woman that's ranting at me, tell her I hear it, show her that I understand what she was saying and I empathize and I care about her. And I think that just shows so much strength. And I don't think I would have that skill if it weren't for me going out being rejected all the time. And I was also, it's funny today because I was doom scrolling through Instagram a bit, through the Instagram videos. And there's this female comedian that was making this joke about how all women are basically coaching men for their next relationship after them. They just improve a man in some kind of aspect and then hand it off to the next woman for that relationship. It's like, congrats, now I got him to care about his career. Congrats, I got him to communicate better. And so if we stop seeing women as like, oh, I have to convince her that I'm perfect or something like that, and just seeing them as like, they're on our side. But it's like, everybody's just on our side, whether or not they're rejecting us or anything. I don't need a yes to think that somebody's on my side. They're giving me great feedback.
Yeah, this is such a dynamic conversation. So a couple things. I agree. It's with much chagrin that I consent and yield to the complementary perspective but no, it wasn't me discovering my faults and spending all this time working on myself. It was the woman discovering them first, poking at them, and then me seeing them and working on them. Like, right. Yeah, wrote this whole book about like recovering from my last partner, which we should talk about at some point. I think you'd be entertained by it. So yeah, I definitely agree. There's two comments I've been meaning to make. One is like when you when you move your head, you're kind of consciously seeking permission to go deeper. And it's not like a full-on dignified, like, may I sit down? It's more of a like, it's a testing of the waters, and that's cool. And then reading her, so to speak, micro expression. And then coming back to this conversation that you've just introduced, which I really love. It makes sense that in an evolutionary theater, when we were hunter-gatherers, a woman would probably be testing not just for genetic compatibility, physical strength, but also for like clarity, certainty, purposiveness, capacity to manage emotional difficulties and challenges. Like a woman is subconsciously testing your strength and sharpening your sword. So every man should find a woman who will fight you.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent. Um,
And that word
yeah.
clarity is also tricky because I think for myself, and I think for a lot of men, it's like, oh, but I'm not clear. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do. And it's like, and the clarity is really, I know what I know. I trust myself to navigate the situation. And there's a lot I don't know. And I'm okay with that.
So what I'm hearing is like it's uh it's it's not like a termination point. It's like a dynamic tension
Hmm.
that gets developed in the man and his capacity for response.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I coached healing social anxiety and I brought guys out to bars. And what I notice is their anxiety comes out in different ways. A large portion of guys, when they get anxious, they think that they need to know more theory. And so they start, guys, they'll turn to me right when we enter the bar. I need you to explain more stuff to me. And that's just the anxiety. And when when I get it, but getting more theory while out in the field is what we call it, at a bar or on a date, it's going to enhance the anxiety rather than calm it.
Yeah, and sadly enough, this is probably our last major tangent, but it's a really incredible bookmark. You're officially invited back for more of these
Great.
conversations, by the
I would
way.
love it.
Yeah. The uh the thing that because you met someone at the Enchanters meetup here in Austin that we do for Make Love Easy that very likely, I'm almost certain, was dealing with exactly that.
Mm, mm,
One of my clients, and I I've noticed this phenomenon as I've gotten more precise in my fine-grained resolution capacity
mhm.
for detecting and distinguishing physical sensations in my body or emotional states in my body. Like at first it was like, okay, so there's an overt trigger. It's like, okay, my
Mhm.
body, like there's a red alert sign, and my brow is creased, and my muscles are tight in my legs, or there's tension in my stomach, or like my face is drooping as I'm feeling deep grief coming upon me. Like whatever it is, like that's the beginning of emotional intelligence and fitness.
Mhm.
The later realm is noticing like how much of my thinking only exists, and it's starting to sound really like A Course in Miracles or A Course of Love when I say these things, but it makes
Okay.
sense. Like spiritual psychology, like the thoughts themselves
Mm,
only exist because of a previously established context of fear,
mhm.
concern, alertness, like
Mhm.
need to manage or manipulate or control the environment through conceptual thinking. And like, yeah, for me now, my triggers more often are me behaving in really subtle ways where I can't feel anything in my body that's
Yeah.
specifically triggered, but way layers and layers under the surface, there's
Mhm.
some stored emotion that's just kind of seeping in. It's like
Mhm.
it's like contaminating the water a little
Yeah.
bit. It's like blood in the water, so to speak, like
Yeah.
1 part blood per million parts water or something. And it's like, oh, there's something there. And then I'll do the work to release, and I'll yawn and I'll burp or whatever. And stuff will
Mhm.
actually move from my nervous system. So like, it sounds like, and here's my last question for you, and then we'll move to conclude. It sounds like that capacity for emotional intelligence, fitness, what we would call emotional alchemy, and debugging what's there under the surface so that you are
Mhm.
fundamentally in a safe, secure, easeful state, that would be the most important thing for people who want to make either of our techniques that we just outlined useful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting, there's kind of this difference between men and women where I think it's easier for us to say where a woman is on the attractiveness scale. And this is, I hate saying it because it has to do with looks and stuff like that. It does seem conventionally true. Whereas for men, it's much harder to tell where a man is on the hierarchy. And so what happens where we're all trying to sense where a man is, like how attractive he is how attractive he thinks he is. And that is a weird, mind-blowing moment, because there are women that I think this is probably a lot of guys can relate to this. There are women that we're not attracted to, that are attracted to us because of how we interact with them when we're not attracted. Whereas there are women that we are attracted to that are not attracted to us because we're doing our quote unquote A game. We're trying our best. But it's that trying our best that's like, oh, got it. He's trying his best, which means like he thinks I'm above him. And so this is a much larger conversation, but I would love to get it into it at some point, which is how do we act with how we would act with somebody that we're not attracted to, where we're just ourselves, we're just let loose, but with this woman we are very much attracted to.
So many incredible bookmarks and teaser trailers. I love this. Just thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for unpacking and distilling, distinguishing, sharing your wisdom and real grounded expertise around all of this. I don't know if you're in a place where you want a bunch of people following you or finding you, but if you do, where would people find you?
That's a good question. You could probably find me on Instagram or Facebook, although I'm like nearing my max Facebook friend limit, so it's hard to tell at this point. Probably follow me on Facebook, Shane Orton. That's where I tend to put my posts.
Excellent, man. Well, I'm looking forward to our next and definitely to more of this.
Me too.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And gentlemen listening, feel free to like, share, subscribe. Go make love easy.
Bye, everybody.